Hey everyone, Sam here, otherwise known as FPL Pricey, and in today's video, I will be running through my early transfer plans ahead of Game Week 27. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Now, if you did enjoy today's content, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like, hit subscribe if you're new around here as well. But first off, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Game Week 26 has been somewhat of a car crash. I can't remember too many weeks quite like this one. Of course, it's not quite over yet, but we've got the one game to go, and I don't really see it recovering, at least for my team. There are plenty of big scores out there, but not here on this channel, unfortunately. 35 points from me is horrific, and I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it in any way. This is a really bad game week from me. I triple captained Gabriel, who got DEFCON, but also a yellow card and conceded. 9 points on the triple captain from him so far. No one else in my backline has done anything. Timber, Munoz conceded 3 goals, did put up 1 XG, or XGI rather, but of course conceded all those goals and got brought off in the 71st minute. Dubravka also conceded twice, so he only picked up 1 point. In my midfield, the only returners were DEFCON, Anderson, joint top scorer for me this week. Elliot Anderson, of all people, with all that firepower in my 11, for him to be my joint top scorer is pretty embarrassing, to be honest. But 5 points from him, 4 points from Rice, and I think he might sneak a bonus point in the update, so he might get 5. That's not going to give me much help, though. Rogers, Fernandez, Enzo, all blanking. Thiago up front, blanking. Not so upset about that. That was a bit of a hedge, just in case Brentford did score. It seemed likely that Thiago would be the one that got it. And to be fair, if you watch the match, you will have seen that Thiago put up, I think it was 6 shots, 2 big chances, and a few of them were well saved by Raya as well. So perhaps a little bit unfortunate for him not to return. Very happy to own him going into the next few game weeks because Brentford's fixtures look fantastic. And Erling Haaland finally was the other joint top scorer in my side so far. 5 points from him, scored a goal in the first half, got brought off with a slight knock at halftime. We'll move on to that later on in the video. But of course, even though he scored points, it actually damaged my rank more than anything else because he was over 100% effective ownership. Long story short, on a triple captaincy week, I'm down 139,000 places. I do have players left to play. Of course, a lot of us are also in a pretty poor position right now as well. But yeah, can't sugarcoat it. It's been a horrific week. So let's try and figure out how we're going to move past this. Okay, so let's take a look at how I'm set up ahead of Game Week 27. Still quite a way to go. We've got the FA Cup results to come in over the weekend. And of course, the Arsenal game is yet to be played. So plenty can change. Players can get injured. But for now, I think it looks okay. But I've only got 1 free transfer, 2.8 million in the bank. And I do have a number of players. I think if I count it out, 5 players who are going to blank in Game Week 31. So that's something to consider with my future moves. Of course, I'm potentially looking at wildcarding in Game Week 32. Starting off in goal, Kelleher comes into a good run of fixtures from now until I want to wildcard. So I've kind of bared with it for a few weeks on the Brentford players, but now I'm finally quite happy to own them yet again. Kelleher will be going nowhere. In my backline, all 3 of these players in my current starting 11 are going to need to either be sold or benched come Game Week 31. So I need to start thinking about plans for those. But I don't think any of them are necessarily immediate sells. You've got Gabriel and Timber going up against Spurs, who have been really poor this season, but maybe there's a new manager bounce there. That's something to consider. And of course, we'll wait to see how Arsenal get on against Wolves and actually Wigan in the FA Cup before that as well. Munoz, I feel a little bit unlucky not to have got an attacking return out of him in the Burnley game, considering he did put up such good underlying data. But we've got 1 more good fixture left, Wolves at home, before it's 2 okay fixtures away at Man United and Spurs, Leeds at home after that. And by that point, he will need to be sold ahead of Game Week 31. I don't think he's necessarily an immediate sell either, though. Into my midfield, all of them can probably stay for a little while longer if I wanted to. So Enzo Fernandez, I'm not realistically looking at getting rid of him ahead of Game Week 27 when they go up against Burnley at home. Although him being my only playable Chelsea asset, of course I've got Mark Guiu on my bench. him being my only playable one is a little bit concerning with such a good fixture to come and a number of players in that Chelsea 11 looking really good right now. Bruno Fernandes also going absolutely nowhere. Everton away from home is a decent fixture. Don't need to overthink that one. Nor do I with Morgan Rogers at home to Leeds. I think he's a player that when I first bought him in, it was always with the plan that I can rely on him to start, play 90 minutes, get decent data. It's not the best, but decent data and tick along quite nicely all the way through to when I want to wildcard. That is still very much the plan with him. Then you've got the two players on both sides of the 5 here. So Declan Rice away at Spurs. Who knows whether or not that's going to be an easy fixture anymore, but he's still a decent player. I think the attacking returns have now dried up for the last 7 game weeks in a row. Hasn't gotten anything. Let's see how he does against Wolves. But he has picked up a couple of DEFCON in the last 2 as well. And then you've got Elliot Anderson, who is pretty much just DEFCON. So those are the 2 players on either side that I'd be more willing to maybe move on and attack the upside, look for players who might score a couple of goals, who might spike me that haul. Because at the moment, neither of those players feel likely to be getting the 10, 15, potentially even 20 pointer that I kind of want now to try and regain the points that I've lost in game week 26. Because as much as I don't like to admit it, perhaps I am chasing a little bit now. I'm down to 400k. Hopefully it doesn't look quite as bad as that by the end of game week 26, but it's still a little gap now between me and the top 100k. And at minimum, I really want to make it into the top 100k this season. So I would like to spike some hauls between now and when I wildcard. And given that there are only a few game weeks to go, I don't need to worry about the players as long-term picks necessarily, more just finding players that I think will do well for this particular stretch of game weeks. Moving into my forward line, first off, Erling Haaland is going absolutely nowhere unless we get confirmation that he is indeed injured. Came off at halftime with a knock. He's got plenty of time between the time the game was played and game week 27. So I'd imagine the Newcastle game will not be a problem for him. But of course, things can move forward. We can get more information over the next few days. So that could change. And I'll update in later videos if the situation arises that I might need to think about routes to selling him then. For now, though, he is currently my captain going into game week 27. I think Newcastle haven't looked particularly fantastic defensively. He's going absolutely nowhere. And then you've got Thiago, who again, a bit like Kelleher in goal, they come into great fixtures now. And Thiago, even against Arsenal, put up a couple of big chances. I think 6 or 7 shots, looked really good. He's going absolutely nowhere. And if there was one forward to own right now, outside of Erling Haaland, if I was buying one today, it would probably be Thiago. João Pedro, obviously, honourable mention considering the next fixture is a very, very good one. But long term or medium term, up until the point I wildcard, Thiago's got that better set of fixtures and penalties. There is an argument to say that maybe Elliot Anderson, as that 5th midfielder, could be on the bench this week. I've got the other Anderson at Fulham away at Sunderland, and I've also got Alderete at home to Fulham as well. So either of them might put their hand up as a decent starter this week. So I've got a bit of bench cover, but Elliot Anderson's just been so ridiculously consistent. I can basically take 4 or 5 points to the bank with him every single week. So that's my 11 as it stands. I don't think there are too many crisis points this week, but there are plenty of players I wish I had. So let's have a look at what my potential transfer routes are going into Game Week 27. So Declan Rice is a player I mentioned in the previous section as someone I might be willing to upgrade or move on over the next few game weeks, maybe even in Game Week 27 itself, because I do think there is greater potential for spiking a big haul from some of the other options that are affordable to me with 2.8 million in the bank. Although I don't think that Declan Rice is necessarily a player with amazing upside generally, because we do remember he scored big. I think it was against Bournemouth with a couple of goals earlier this season. So it is possible. But generally speaking, I don't think he's got the greatest upside. But on the other hand, I think he's been a little bit unfortunate not to get an attacking return recently. He's always involved. He's on set pieces. I just think that it's a little bit of an uneven distribution of how he's picked up those points. A lot of them came earlier in the season, not so many recently, but I don't think there's been a stylistic change, and he hasn't been taken off of set pieces either. So I don't think there's anything to suggest that he's become a worse FPL asset, generally speaking. I just think he was maybe slightly overperforming before, and now he might be slightly underperforming now. So I don't think he's a bad player to hold on to. Definitely not a must sell. But given that I've got this 5-week period between now and wildcarding, and Declan Rice will blank in game week 31, so I will want to get rid of him eventually anyway, there are a few players that are interesting to me this week specifically. So the 3 on the right are the more expensive picks where I'd need to spend a bit of my money in the bank to upgrade Declan Rice. I think they're all pretty explosive as well. So starting off with Florian Wirtz, he's got decent underlying data. 0.47 XGI per 90 is good, but a lot of that is assist threat, whereas the other 2 we'll talk about much more lean towards the goal threat. And I don't need to tell you why that's more powerful as an FPL pick. You just get more points, right? So Wirtz is a good option. I am a little bit worried about the fixture schedule and the fact that Liverpool might look at rotating in 1, maybe 2 of the easier fixtures in the Premier League to prioritise the Champions League. But the devil on my shoulder is just saying, well, they're fighting for 4th place in the league as well. So why would they rotate and risk it in the league? Wirtz has been one of their best players recently. Really impressed with him on the eye. And obviously the data is getting much better recently as well. And the other thing I really like about Florian Wirtz is even before he gets an attacking return, you can see that he's ranking pretty well in the bonus point system. So all he really needs is to pick up 1 attacking return, and he's got a shot at getting bonus points as well. And you can see it when you look at the total point scores that he's had recently. Whenever he's picked up a return, it tends to become a double-digit haul because he also gets the bonus points attached to that return. So for that reason, I'm really interested in him, and he does have very good fixtures, including a fixture in game week 31. Bryan Mbeumo is the same, decent fixtures, maybe not quite as good as Liverpool's, but slightly better attacking data, and it does lean more towards the goal threat than the assist threat. So 0.54 XGI per 90 is slightly better than Wirtz. He's playing in a more advanced position right now in the new system under Carrick. The fixtures aren't quite as good, but they're still good enough that you'd back Man United and Mbeumo to get a few goals in this stretch. And of course, again, the advantage of having a fixture in game week 31. I think Bryan Mbeumo is right up there as one of my favourite picks to bring in over the next few game weeks. It's just because the fixtures aren't quite as good as Liverpool's, and the fact that Man United do have options in that forward line. Sesko, when coming off the bench, has looked good. You've also got Cunha in there, Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, goes without saying. You've got a few options in those positions that can come in. I think specifically Sesko would maybe present himself as a little bit of a threat to the final minutes of the match for someone like Bryan Mbeumo. He can get good minutes, and arguably even 75 minutes is enough. But ideally, if I'm spending this much money, I'd prefer him to be on the pitch for 90 minutes every single week. So if he gets withdrawn slightly earlier, it could be a little bit of an annoyance. Regardless, he's still a very good pick and obviously has the best attacking data of the lot on this graphic right now. Finally, Semenyo also needs a mention. He is decimating my overall rank at the moment, and he continues to score. I do just wonder if it's slightly too late. And considering, if you look back at my side earlier on in the video, I've got 5 players that already blank in game week 31. Do I really want to replace one of the players that blanks with another player that blanks when I've only got, after this week, what would it be? 4 free transfers left to get to a position where my team is strong enough to survive game week 31. It just kind of, not in the sense that Semenyo's not better than Rice, but it does kind of just move me sideways, and it doesn't help me get towards a good game week 31 team. Some good fixtures in there, and his ownership is so high. The data's decent. He's obviously playing in a very attacking Man City side. So I think he's going to continue to punish me every single week. So it makes it really tempting to just go there anyway. But considering I've only got 4 game weeks left before game week 31, and it does waste another transfer to get there, and I will need to sell him, it makes it pretty difficult to go there now. So basically, congratulations to anyone who already has him, because I think a lot of us who don't will be looking at that blank in game week 31 as a good reason not to go there. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just go there anyway and collect the points whilst they're on the table. Now, the other option with Declan Rice is to not upgrade him at all, but actually I could look at some of the cheaper options in midfield. And honestly, I think a lot of them are looking really good value for money right now. Harry Wilson's been in a bit of a dry spell for a little while, not too long, but I think people are starting to move away from him now. I would actually say that after Sunderland away is out of the way, he comes in some really good games, and they play Burnley in game week 31. He could be a really good option over the next 5 game weeks. So I think if you've got him and you're looking at selling, I would hold off personally. And he's potentially a player I'd look at buying from next week onwards, potentially even for game week 27 away at Sunderland, but more likely down the line. So he's an option I'm still very much considering. Then you've got Ryan, who's obviously the new Bournemouth Semenyo replacement, I suppose you would call him, putting up really, really impressive underlying data, especially for a player new to the league. 0.55 XGI per 90 is fantastic. He loves a shot. And they've got great fixtures up until the point where I plan on wildcarding after game week 31. Look at that ticker there. I mean, it's West Ham away, Sunderland at home, Brentford at home, Burnley away. Absolutely fantastic. And he's got something like 0.5% ownership. So he could be a massively tempting differential with high upside. Then you've got the 2 Brentford boys. Obviously, I've already got the double up, so it might be going a step too far to triple up on a team like Brentford. But they've been brilliant this season. They're not even that far away from a Champions League spot right now, and we're 3/4 of the way through the season. So the 2 options that I could look at tripling up with, on top of Thiago and Kelleher, of course, are Dango Altara or Kevin Schade. Now, there's not really all that much between the 2 of them. Schade's data is a little bit better, but it's mainly all concentrated, or not mainly, but a lot of it is concentrated in one particular week where he put up something like 3 XG. I think that was the week he got the hat-trick as well. Altara is a little bit more steady, and although the data is not quite as good, it's much more evenly distributed. 0.44 is still very good. He's quite a bit cheaper than Schade as well, so it allows me a little bit of wiggle room on other transfers. And both the Brentford boys, like I've mentioned in this video already, have got great fixtures through to wildcarding. Brighton at home, Burnley away, Bournemouth away, and then Wolves at home. It's a great run. So I'm looking at all 4 of these options as cheaper midfielders that I'd be pretty tempted to bring in over the next couple of game weeks, arguably even this week, but especially if I wanted to save the transfer this week, make a double move next week. A lot of these players go up against opposition that I would like to target. So Spurs at home for Harry Wilson, Sunderland at home for Ryan isn't bad, and then Altara and Schade both come in to Burnley away from home. So maybe next week's the week to make these transfers on these specific players, but they're all really tempting. So I thought I'd give them a mention, and at least one of them I think is going to be very likely to come into my team over the next week or 2. So I did mention earlier on in the video that it's not impossible that I look at taking a -4 in game week 27. I still haven't taken one this season, but I'm willing to be aggressive with my moves if I feel like the upside is there. So if I was to take a -4 this week, I think it would still include getting rid of Declan Rice and really chasing the upside on someone that I would probably pick to captain in game week 27 specifically. That man would be Cole Palmer, who I believe will get rested against Hull in the FA Cup, and therefore should be pretty secure for good minutes against Burnley, which right now, especially at home, seems like the best fixture in the entire Premier League calendar. He's got good underlying data. Yes, it has been massively bolstered by penalties. So maybe I shouldn't get too tempted by him, considering a lot of the goals recently have come from penalties. That's a very noisy and not easy to replicate statistic. But then again, maybe there's a reason they're getting more penalties at the moment. João Pedro has been winning a lot of them. Could it happen against Burnley? Absolutely it could. So Cole Palmer, if I did want to captain him, this becomes more tempting. And honestly, I'm not a million miles away from saying that he is a better captain than Erling Haaland this game week. I think for me, it's just whether or not it's worth taking a -4 this week. And then realistically, Cole Palmer isn't a player that I'm all that keen on holding on to anyway. It's Arsenal away afterwards, followed by Villa, Newcastle. They do play, I think it's Everton in the blank game week, but it's not a great run of fixtures, especially Arsenal away. So is it worth a -4? I don't know. Probably not. But if I was to do it, Munoz or Timber. I've picked Munoz out for the graphic, but easily Timber as well. Both players that blank in game week 31. I could downgrade them to help me afford this move. I'm 0.2 short, by the way, without taking the -4, which is a bit frustrating. But obviously, making this move, Munoz down to someone like James Hill, fantastic value for money. He's picking up attacking returns, averaging over 11 defcons per 90, and he's been getting 90 minutes regularly for quite a while now. Bournemouth's fixtures look fantastic. Might not be the worst idea. However, I think on balance, I'm unlikely to make this move. Unless, for whatever reason, maybe Erling Haaland is injured and we know he's out and Cole Palmer just seems like the standout captain for game week 27. Maybe it becomes a bit more tempting then. Right now, as it stands, I'm relatively unlikely to do this move. The other option I am considering in game week 27 is to make a defensive move and more to map ahead and secure myself for game week 31. Removing Timber for someone like Virgil van Dijk. And yes, it's easy to talk about him after he's scored his biggest haul of the season, 17 points. He's not going to keep doing that every single week. But Liverpool's fixtures defensively are looking pretty good. They've got Forest away, which, okay, they might get a new manager bounce, but who knows? West Ham at home, Wolves away. That should probably be a green on the ticker there. Spurs at home after that. And then I think, again, it's Sunderland potentially in game week 31. It's a good run all the way through to when I want to wildcard. And it does give me an extra player in game week 31. And as good as Timber is on the eye and the data, he's not picking up attacking returns. And he does blank in game week 31. So it's not a move that I'm completely overlooking because I actually think that Virgil van Dijk should continue to do pretty well over the next 5 game weeks. It's just whether or not it is worth taking out Timber any sooner than I need to, because I do feel like he owes me a little bit. An attacking return is never far away. And if I sell him before he finally hits that big haul, which I'm sure will come before the end of the season, I am going to kick myself. And he's got good enough fixtures that he could haul in over the next 4 weeks before I need to inevitably sell him for the blank game week. So again, probably a move that it's in the on the edge of my mind, but not one that I'm currently planning on doing this week. Okay, so wrapping up my video, hopefully I'm planning on rolling this game week. The reason being is looking at this side, although there are moves that I could make, I don't think any of them meaningfully move the dial or give me plenty more points specifically this game week. Whereas having 2 free transfers next week, I can upgrade Enzo Fernandez, who comes into Arsenal away, followed by some poorer fixtures. I can upgrade Declan Rice that week instead, or Timber, or Munoz. And I would quite like that flexibility of 2 free transfers to make a combination move. Maybe take Enzo Fernandez up to someone like Florian Wirtz or Mbeumo, who obviously I've mentioned in this video, and then maybe bring someone like Rice down to a cheaper asset that I mentioned earlier on in the video as well. Right now, unless Erling Haaland gets injured, or maybe one of the Arsenal boys in the second game in game week 26 for them, or maybe even in the FA Cup as well. Obviously, a lot of these players will get minutes in that. Right now, I'm going to cross my fingers, hope that they all get through those matches, and hopefully I can roll the free transfer. On my bench, I do have a bit of cover as well. So if there is even like one minor doubt, I might still be willing to roll the transfer, considering the Anderson from Fulham plays Sunderland away, Alderete at home to Fulham. I don't think it's all that bad. So I think right now the plan is potentially to roll, but it's early days. We've got plenty of football left to play. So I think it's important to have these plans in the back of your mind, just in case things were to go askew. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Leave a like if you have. Hit subscribe if you're new around here and you enjoyed the content. And as always, drop any questions in the chat below and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as I can.